for a week, and thank you so much for being here. If you would go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you work, and we'll get started. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you've used your education here at Hodges, and then we'll have some questions and answers afterwards. So Michael, if you want to go ahead and start.
Sure. My name is Michael Enright. I'm currently the Senior Software Engineer and SMS Team Lead for Enright Technologies, based here out of Fort Myers. Pretty much right out of Hodges, I was international at the time, but I learned a lot here. I was able to get with my associate's degree, I was able to get my first programming position. If I get off topic, please just go ahead and stop me, but I'll tend to ramble. So I was able to, with my associate's degree, I was able to get my first programming job here in Fort Myers with a company called Harvey Software. I continued my education, though, even though I had already landed a position, and I went through and completed my bachelor's in 2003. But from there, it's just really just a matter of just building my skill sets, and it's really, you learn a lot. I learned a lot in Hodges, but you really have to continue your education on your own, even when you're in the outside world. I mean, the education can only take you so far. So Hodges really gives you that step up that you need to get into your career path. But it's really up to you to be motivated and continue down that path. Sorry, what was next?
Have you pursued your master's, or?
I have not pursued my master's as of yet. It's something that I'm definitely considering. I would like to pursue it at some point. In my career track, however, as a software engineer, at least in this area, a master's doesn't really get me any further than where I am. So if I ever wanted to pursue, just be honest, if I ever wanted to pursue a career in academia, or if I wanted to take on more of a managerial or administrative role, I would definitely pursue my career as my education, a master's, or even my PhD.
Did you do any internships when you were a student at Hodges?
I did not do any internships. I did. I was a TA here, if that counts. I worked a lot with Dr. Nelson, who I hear is the dean now, Dean of Technology. So I did a lot of work with Dr. Nelson. I learned a lot from Dr. Nelson. I helped him with a lot of his C++ classes, I believe some of his VB classes, with some of the other professors at the time too, whose names I don't recall. But I didn't do any internships outside of here. So I pretty much just, I learned enough here that I was able to, even with my associate's degree, kind of get my foot in the door with a local company. And it also helped too. I was close with a lot of my instructors, my professors here at Hodges, and I was able to, I got several letters of recommendation from them as well, which I greatly increased my odds of landing a position.
Just one question. For the software industry, what's the impact of certification? Is there a push for certification, or any other type of development, training beyond what you start off with?
That's a really good question, and honestly, certifications really aren't as important as they used to be. It tend to be, once upon a time, certifications meant a lot. But it got to the point where it was just, there was a lot of these 2-week cram your certification courses, and it tended to, it really devalued them now. So nowadays, it's really more of, at least from what I've learned, it's a lot of just experience, and it's a combination, really. It's work experience and education and networking. So it's a lot of, if you can have people that vouch for you, especially in this area, our technology industry in this area is very tight-knit. So there's a lot of relationships that you're going to build and just move around. It's not uncommon to jump around every couple of years, at least as a software engineer. So you tend to make relationships along the way, and then as these relationships grow, your network grows, and then these people are also spreading out. So from what I've learned anyway, it's your education, your work experience, and who you know. To be honest, I've never, from all the resumes I've read, the certifications tend to not be a big part of them anymore. I haven't had any employers ask me for certifications lately.
I completely agree with that.
Yes, I do too. They're more interested in your degree than they are in anything else. You have in the degree and experience. I think first would be the thing they ask for in a degree, right, equal to that. But those are the two things. Certifications aren't the impact they used to have. I know I looked at, right before I enrolled here, I looked at a program that cost like 10 grand back in the day of MCSEs. This was still like on NT4. So I weighed the cost of that, what that cost to get that certification. It was kind of like a boot camp. And the cost of that then versus now is pretty phenomenal, in fact, at that time. And looking back, I'm very glad I chose the degree path. It was much better, and opened a lot more doors for me.
I would say having the certs on top of the degree and experience helped put you over the edge, though. I mean, don't totally discount it, but I
No,
would
never
put it on your
discount
face
the
in it.
certifications. They're definitely, the experience and the certifications, the degree, they all work together.
Right. Yeah, you're building like a portfolio,
Yeah.
but and I agree. I mean, they don't hurt.
No.
I mean, they definitely help, but
Yeah.
I think there's as far as your priorities are concerned. I mean, your education is your degree is definitely a lot higher.
A
Yeah.
degree opens a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
Definitely opens the doors.
Yeah.
And especially Hodges. I've seen so many people that this school has such a great reputation, and it's well known for actually teaching you the technology instead of just being in an auditorium. You know, it actually means a lot. So I was glad I picked this one.
I was way glad I picked this over the certification path alone. This was much better for me.
Can you share with us what your name is, what you do?
Oh, you have to
where
guess
you
all
work?
that. Well, my name's Chris Wolfe, and I work for the City of Cape Coral. I started there as a desktop technician. I was a career changer when I came here. When I started International, I was a mechanic, and I worked for a local dealership. And I knew where that path was going to go, so I decided that I looked at the certification path, and I looked at what that cost versus getting my education and the degree. So I decided to go down the degree path. And I came here, and it was a great experience. I kept knocking on the door of the IT department and kept trying until they finally had an opening, and I had to test for it. By that time, I was into my associate's path, and I landed the job there, and that put me in the desktop support. I think I, like everybody else at the time, thought I could, do the server end of it and everything else. Well, that taught me a lot about the whole client server architecture. There's what's going on, how the people skills were probably the number one thing that were most important that they don't always tell you about in these job interviews. Is I know they're looking for it, but that it's not exactly one of the things that they drill you on. That was real important because you're interacting with everybody out there every day, working on their desktops, and if you come in there with a really bad attitude or you're grumpy, that's gonna get back to your boss. Hitting the server side, taught me a lot on the desktop, learning about the server architecture, the back end, and what drove that. I eventually moved into the network administrator side, and have since been there. I'll be 12 years in January that I've been there, and it's been interesting. I've watched the technology completely change. I did my degree while I worked full time, and in the 3.5 years it took me to get my bachelor's, I changed careers and I had 2 kids, so it was quite the experience, and it went by really fast. Looking back, I can't believe it's been this long already. I'm coming back to talk to other people here, but don't lose sight of that. It's some days it gets really hard and it can be discouraging, but the payoff at the end is really worth it. For technology-wise, we use a lot of virtualization. It really makes life easy, and that technology is just growing by leaps and bounds. We're a VMware shop. We have tried some of the other technology that works pretty well, but we've been with VMware using that technology since probably. It was interesting because the VMware engineers themselves used to come out, and now we've got salespeople that are we don't see too many VMware people anymore. That gives us a lot of flexibility with the VMware side of it. It's pretty interesting. You can do your maintenance in the middle of the day. We had an AS400 at one time, and we're slowly phased off of that and moved on to Windows. It's primarily a Windows architecture, and my main role there is for storage and the virtualization. I'm just going to cover. I had a list of stuff to go over some of it. I went over most of it. A lot of people ask me about how I made that jump to go from being a mechanic to working on computers. It was really quite similar in the fact that it was a break-fix type thing, diagnose, figure out what the problem-cause relationship is. So in that, for me, that was more of a going from the dirty environment to a much cleaner and air-conditioned environment. But for the most part, it still was the same of break and repair and troubleshoot. So we already went over all the certifications and things like that. So it's definitely, the certifications are a plus. Experience is you will get in the time and patience with that. It took me a while to move into the administration side of it, but working my way up, as impatient as I got with that, I wanted to move up faster. I felt like I could go faster, but in time, it worked out to be the best because it gave me the experience to know what to expect moving up that ladder and getting into the administration. A lot more headaches on the back side, and when you break something, instead of affecting one person, you just took out the entire department or division. It's not always real good.
How many people do you work with? How big is the IT staff for?
We have integrated, since I've been there, we moved our GIS, which is our Geographical Information Systems. They have been absorbed. They've been kind of moved around. Now they're within IT where I think they really should be. We have a total staff of about almost 20 people. And we really get a lot done with that. We have complete mobile access into the system. We do virtual desktops. In fact, last night I got a call that I'm the acting manager when he's not there. And all our council meetings are streamed. You can get them on TV, or you can get them on your computer. So we've been having a little problem lately with one of our providers that stream that media. Of course, I got that call, so my daughter's in tennis lesson. I've got to so I don't have to. It's nice because I have the mobile technology to be able to just work wherever I'm at, which was really nice. And we fixed the problem within a reasonable amount of time. But I think that made, I don't have to drive all the way back in all the time either. So they give me that capability.
Okay. Hi, I'm Laura Koenigs. I graduated from Hodges with my associates and my bachelor's 2005. I actually was working for Sony for about 5 years before I went back to college and did the paper to back up the experience, because it made a big difference. So I started off as regular tech support, which I would suggest any IT student do tech support at some point and get the people skills and look at it from the user side, because no matter what company you go with, you're going to have the people skills. I can't emphasize that enough. I've worked with some horrible attitudes, and they're the first ones gone. I don't care how good you are. If you're insulting the client, you're insulting your boss, you're out of there. So that's something really, really important. But while I was at Sony and going to school full time here as well, I got promoted, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times. After about a year after my graduation, I got offered a really good position at FGCU that I was a help desk manager there. I really liked it, but there were some political things, and I made the mistake of resigning at a bad time. So I've also worked for, I've used my IT skills to work for a radio broadcasting company and help them with their IT plans for advertising, streaming, helping the salespeople go ahead and sell internet advertising. And started off as a salesperson. I didn't really want to. One of my friends talked me into it with the economy the way it was. I said, okay, it's better to have a job than no job while I'm looking. But it moved into where I got promoted to internet account manager. So I was in charge of all the internet activity. And until the economy killed this dream, where they took away my streaming radio, I thought I was going to be there for a while. So now I do independent consulting. I teach here at Hodges, an adjunct. I love teaching CAP 1000. this semester I'm teaching 4, and this is the first semester I'm teaching online, so that's a challenge. As
What's
Dr.
that
Cole
like?
knows. That's difficult, especially when there are students that have never touched a computer and they're calling me on the phone and not checking email. That can be difficult. Everyone should take CAP 1000 in person. Hope I don't get my hand slapped for saying that, but it should be taken in person. But I love the teaching part. And I found that really my niche is the teaching and the helping. I like programming, but it's not enough people activity for me. I like networking. Again, not enough people activity for me. If I can have a balance where I'm training someone on networks, that's great. If I'm training someone to do something else, that's great. I just got a contract with Collier County Libraries to hold classes in their library system. So starting January, I'll be doing that too and get clients. So I've kind of been making by on my own, and I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't gone here. So it's fantastic. And on top of that, I had a really good opportunity, along with 3 other classmates, when I was here at Hodges, well, when it was international. And we found out about beta tests. We would constantly find out about certification beta tests. So we go in groups, and I think we all had to go to Sarasota for this one beta test for a desktop support technician, the MCDST. And so we got to take the test for free. We found out like the day before, went to take the test, and as a result, we all wrote notes. Like we critiqued the questions, and as a result, Microsoft invited 4 Hodges students to go and rewrite the MCDST test. We all went to Seattle. And that was a really, really cool experience. That, again, wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been here. So I love Hodges and I love teaching here, and I encourage everybody to, I've encouraged lots of people to come here rather than some of the other colleges local and afar that aren't as personal, because the big thing is the instructors really gave individual attention, really cared, and really gave good feedback. You weren't just a number. So that's probably the best thing I can say about Hodges. I got a great education.
I did too.
Yep, I agree.
I second that.
One of the things I really loved about the instructors here was that everybody at some point or currently was practicing in the field that they were teaching, which I thought was phenomenal. You know, I think it's really great to learn from somebody that's still practicing the field or has done so recently. You know?
And even when you leave here, you were right. You do have to continue to learn yourself, continue going on. And as a graduate, we're allowed to like audit other classes here, just to keep up with it. And I actually had a moment where I don't know if you remember. I had an interview with the City of Cape Coral, and it was not for the position I actually applied for, and it was one that had to do with database and had to do with a little bit of programming, and I couldn't remember the terminology because I got out of practice, so I went back and relearned it again. But I got the interview, I know because of my resume, and when I got there, I was just like, wow, I can't believe if you don't use this over a year, you lose it. You've got to keep up after you get out of school. So,
yeah, you have to
I learned the hard
continue
way.
your education. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, you have to continue your education, even on, whether it be coming back to school, doing it on your own. But yeah, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Real fast.
I think we got a really well-rounded education here too. I was introduced to some programming, which I don't really do. I do a lot of scripting for administration, which the programming helped me learn that. I remember some words Dr. Cole told me. For some reason, they stick in my mind to this day. Is you have to remember, and for what I do is, there's people on the other end of what you're doing. So it's you have to be careful with what you do. But going back to that, I had experience here with programming and databases and project management, and although it was a full degree, it was very focused on what my career path was, which was IT. And you don't get that in some of your bigger universities like Florida or Florida State. You're getting a lot of general classes that you have to take too, which you do get here. But I had public speaking class, which in my job I have to get up a lot of times in front of directors and managers and explain to them what we're doing in common terminology, which can be hard to do. You can lose them pretty fast. It's not everybody loves this technology like we do. But I did get a really well-rounded education.
It's funny you mentioned the public speaking class. That was one of the classes I was most terrified of, and one of the classes I actually use a lot, pretty much daily now. but that's true, the well-rounded everything, and just some of the classes you never thought you would ever need to use. Marketing, business, I'm going here to be a pure geek,
Yeah.
but those things really round you out.
Yes, they do. They give you that, I think, the competitive edge.
I agree.
I was wondering how you see your respective areas of technology in terms of career possibilities at this point, locally, regionally, statewide. What are the skill sets within your areas that are most desired by employers? And what would our students need to know? What areas might they consider as they go through?
End user support is so important, and a lot of students don't think it is. It really is important. I saw it firsthand at Sony, at FGCU, in the field. I've gotten jobs consulting where other companies, like Entech, had them for clients, and they weren't getting the personalization. They weren't getting one-on-ones. They were being talked down to, like, you're bothering me, calling me. So that's a big one. Networking, Cisco is huge. There are clients I can't get because they have to have Cisco certification. So that's something I'm probably going to have to come back and brush up on. But training.
I would have to say, to answer your question, my area of focus is obviously the virtualization and storage, which, we've all heard that the cloud terminology right now. That's my area of focus, and right now that's super, super hot is virtualization. When I came to school here, right at the tail end is when VMware first came out, and it was really kind of neat to show people how you could run virtual machines, which you've probably all had some experience with now. Well, that was unheard of at the time. That was brand new technology right when we were at least I was finishing up. If I had that at the beginning when I started my career, it would make things a lot easier, because we had to, try to find machines that we could hobble together and at least make run to build ourselves some type of a workable lab to do some experiments with, especially at home on your own or at work to do some lab type environment, whereas virtualization gives you that ability to do that on a laptop. That gives me the edge to go pretty much anywhere, and I would think internationally, because what I do is I'm at the systems level, so I do a lot of management and monitoring of those networks as well. We have software in place that watches the machines, watches the CPU utilization, disk usage. Those are the things we run out. Always have a problem with it, will cause a serious disruption in services, and when your people aren't productive and they can't get their job done, IT is going to hear about it. But competitively, I could go to work anywhere, as far as I'm concerned, in the world if I could speak the language, because ultimately what I do, can be done from anywhere. I don't even need to go to the office. I mean, I could work, like I said, it was last night, I opened my laptop up and was able to work on the system from inside my car. So that worked out pretty well.
As far as the programming is concerned, it's really more of a niche market. I mean, it's actually kind of twofold. I mean, you really have to develop your core skill sets, and those you can take anywhere. I mean, you really have to work on your troubleshooting skills. Your debugging skills are key. I mean, that's a really important skill set. I mean, if you plan on being a developer of any sort to work on, because it's huge. But other than that, it's really, you kind of have to learn your languages. You have to look at a language as a tool in your toolbox. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one language, C++, .NET, VB. You're a developer, you're a software engineer. You have to look at a language as a tool. It's your hammer, it's your screwdriver. So you really have to get into that mindset, and you really have to at least be proficient in all languages. You don't have to be an expert, because you're gonna get rusty. I mean, in my current situation, I've been doing C++ now for the past few years. I mean, my .NET's definitely a little rusty, but I'm proficient enough in it that I know if I sat down and worked with it for a little while, that I would be back up to speed in no time. So it's really, I mean, that's kind of important. But that's one side of it. The other side of it is your domain knowledge, and this really you can only gain from job to job. And as far as like right now, I'm in the cellular industry. So that's my current domain is all cellular technology. So I'm furthering that skill set, and if I was ever to, not that I would leave my company anytime soon, but if I was to, I'm more likely to further my career in that domain than I would another domain. I'd more easily get a job in that domain. So that's kind of the good thing is if you're not happy with the domain you're in, it's I recommend don't be afraid to change jobs as a developer. If you don't absolutely love what you're doing, don't be afraid to look around because you're going to get stuck doing it for a while. And it's not uncommon as developers to change jobs every couple years, just because that's how you widen your skill set the fastest. And if you're looking for growth, that's the fastest way to grow salary-wise, too, to be honest. So, I mean, those are the core things I would recommend. And for as far as the developer's concerned, is your core skill sets, your languages, your debugging, and then whatever your particular domain is that you're interested in.
I'd add to that too is my area that I really liked was systems architecture, the networking, the Cisco side. I did some of the programming classes, and I was able to look at evaluate everything. I did databases. We had especially in the beginning portion where you get a little intro to each, because then you can determine which really appeals to you or where your strong suit is. And like he said, with the technology right now, he's in cellular technology. That's we all know what the smartphones are doing. That's explosive growth there, huge. For me, it's virtualization, cloud computing. That's explosive growth, storage networks. So you kind of follow that growth and technology, whatever the market is, the flavor of the month. They're going to put technology to it one way or the other to improve it. And I have to agree with Mike on that. You're going to follow that. Technology is going to take you there one way or the other.
Yeah. And once you find your niche, stick with it and grow with it. But
just be happy with it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to expand because there were jobs I ended up going into that I never ever would have considered that really helped me grow, and it surprised me. So, but the basic skills of just troubleshooting, being able to think outside the box, being able to follow directions, being able to focus, and being able to just troubleshoot. Whether it's the program, which I love debugging, I love testing software, quality assurance, but that pretty much any field you need to have, or any niche you'll need to have that.
Remember to fit the business process to the problem, not the other way around. To fit the problem to the business problem, but trying to force the business into the technology. You want to work that from the other side of the coin.
And network.
Yeah.
You guys go on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Networking's huge, especially in this area. I mean, Fort Myers, Lee County is not exactly a technology hub, so you're in the tech. If you're in the tech industry in this area long enough, you pretty much end up knowing a lot of people. Networking is huge here. I mean, there's been several jobs that I've gotten. I mean, not only on my skill sets, but because I already knew somebody that was in the company, and I know at least as far as software engineers are concerned. A personal recommendation goes a long way. So.
Yeah, I've had a couple of jobs thrown at me where they were begging me to come on board. A couple of them I should have said yes to, but that's why I went off on my own, honestly. But the networking here is just.
Are there any suggestions for students as to groups or
LinkedIn
things that they can be a part of locally?
I know at some point we used to have a local .NET group for developers anyway. I don't know if there's the equivalent for networking and whatnot, but that the guy that was running it, he actually moved up to Clearwater. So that's not there anymore. So I'm not aware of any local groups, but if there are any, if there are any, I'm not a part of them.
There is or was a Linux group that would meet over at Shoeless Joe's. I think it was like every second Tuesday of the month. One of my old coworkers and a bunch of old Hodges students from when I was going here would meet up there. I haven't been able to go past year or so I'm not sure how often they still do that, but they would meet up there.
I've been a member of user groups. Usually I have to travel to like Tampa or Orlando. Whatever technology you're in, if you can find the closest user group, that's what I've done. In the case of, you've heard me say it 100 times already, I'm sorry, VMware, they have a huge user group following. One of our systems management products was made by a company called CA or Computer Associates, whatever they've changed the name to, I don't know. But I was president of that user group for a while. You get to know a lot of people. Just like Mike said, you know, if you're going to know a lot of people because if something doesn't work out here, you at least have some contacts to networking to rely on to get you to that next place.
And some of the online groups.
Yes.
Yeah. Just get active in the forums and just look for user groups.
Helping people, that really goes a long way. When you help somebody fix that one problem, you know, that they're banging their head on the wall for you, they don't forget you. Likewise, when they help you too. So.
I know .NET. I'm not sure if Hodges .NET. Is there a course load for .NET yet here? Or, I know when I attended, it was all C++.
It's not a separate course.
Okay.
So the C++ and DB.
Okay.
And I think they do some .NET and DB now.
Okay. So I know there's the .NET evangelists, which are they're Microsoft certified presenters, if you will. And every once in a while, they'll come to Bell Tower, and it'll be free to attend. And I when I was in the .NET world, I used to attend those every couple months. They come down, but that's all on the. If you get on MSDN, you can get access to all that information if you're interested in .NET. I know .NET's really big as far as development's concerned. A lot of people use .NET. It really depends on what you're doing. Again, it's the right tool for the job. I mean, my current expertise is in C++, because in the cellular world, I mean, you need everything as compact and you need a small footprint as possible. So we're doing everything in Linux and C++. Linux is also something. It's a good skill set. I mean, not only as a developer and probably in networking and troubleshooting and whatnot. It's don't stick with one operating system. Learn, don't just learn Windows. Learn Linux. Learn OS 10. Interoperability is huge.
Learn Mac.
It's going to do nothing but open doors for you. It really will.
Yeah. Something else to suggest for networking locally. This may sound a little off, but the Chamber of Commerce's, they have meetings every month. They usually, on average, I've seen 10 to 12 companies there networking that are in technology or looking for someone in technology. So if you happen to have a resume with you and you have a good conversation, that's a good way to get into even an entry-level position. That's where a lot of people I met were getting positions with Chamber of Commerce functions, which is something you don't normally think of when you're on a job hunt.
What Mike said about the interoperability with systems is huge because you will experience. We have multiple systems. They're definitely majority is Windows, but we have an AS400. We have Linux machines. You've got different operating systems to deal with. You're going to have people that are going to come in with other things. So the more you broaden your horizon there, then obviously the better off you'll be.
And I have seen a lot of Macs lately in the office. A lot of presidents of companies or vice presidents that don't want to use Windows. They don't like it. They just want to stick with Mac, and you better learn it and make sure it works well with your network, which is a challenge. Are we offering that here at all yet? Mac repair classes?
Macintosh?
Yep.
Primarily through the digital design program, digital design and graphics. So both campuses now have Mac labs.
My employer offers education, not only education assistance. In fact, when I started here, I've got some tuition reimbursement from my employer. It was obviously career centric. They also offer me to go if I want to go to certification classes. You definitely want to initiate that if they're not being right out there with a push, keep asking for it. See what they'll provide for you. Even if maybe if you have to get yourself there, but they'll pay for the class. It's always worthwhile. It's never going to quit. This technology moves extremely fast. So once you get your degree, you still don't stop learning. That's for sure. And to keep up on the certifications, the technology, and it's an ongoing job just in the learning.
Plus some of the seminar, like week-long certification seminars, you'll run into other people and have them get into your network, and if you're wanting to relocate or if you're wanting to do some long-distance work or whatever, I've had that happen too, which is a nice bonus. You don't think about it when you go, but it does happen.
On the system side, Mike mentioned MSDN for the programming. It's TechNet on the system side for anyone that's doing the systems. They'll have I think it's called Tech Ed that they do annually, and they do it here in America and over in Europe. It's really worthwhile if you get a chance to go to. You'll see a lot of vendors, but they have a lot of, there's a whole, it's, fast-paced and a lot of classes. You can go from one to the other each day that you're there. So some of those conventions that they would commonly refer to, there's a lot of free education there that's really vendor-specific. So if you want, like VMware has VMware World, they usually hold that out in San Francisco. If you get to get out there to see that, that's really a worthwhile trip.
If you had to pick any particular skill or just one skill set that as a hiring manager you're looking for, what skill set would that be? What would differentiate all, assuming that all resumes are equal, that one item on that resume or one thing about a person that would get them through the door?
I know for my industry at least, considering all resumes being equal, it's really that troubleshooting and more of it's really more of a personality thing. I mean, if assuming all resumes are equal, skill sets are equal, it's really what kind of person are you? Are you motivated enough to do what you need to do to get the job done? Are you the kind of person that expects to have your hand held and have me teach you everything? Or are you going to take the initiative to tackle the problems that you're presented with, to at least make an attempt at, and then ask for direction now and then if you need direction? But that's huge in my business anyway.
I could say three things to that. Everything else being equal is what Mike said, is initiative, people skills, and the willing to work with others. Those are, I don't care how much you know or how much you don't know. If you're willing to learn and you're not, don't sit there and have your hand held the whole time, those are the three things I would have to say.
All of the above there, and also you have to make sure there are people that are afraid to admit they don't know something. You've got to be able to admit you don't know something and that you're willing to learn it. If you lie and you're in an interview, they can tell you're lying. It's apparent. Don't ever do it.
It was hard for me to I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I agree completely. It's if I'm interviewing you and I'm going to ask you a technical question, you never lie. It's I'd much rather you be honest and be willing to learn the right answer than just to pretend like you know.
It was hard for me, for being a mechanic, the career changer. That was a stereotype that I'm sure there was an issue that with some people have, is this guy wants to be wants to fix computers, he's working on cars. But I was lucky enough to have somebody that they saw my persistence, is what they told me, that I didn't give up on the first and second and third, numerous attempts, and finally, after repeated, I just kept kicking in the door, and finally I found a door that was answered, and it took a chance on me. It was paid off for both of us. It's worked out really well.
It's really a similar skill set though, because you're taking pieces and parts and making sure they work together. So, and all of those skills can be applied in pretty much any. I'll tell you, if you have the technology degree, you can use that in pretty much any industry whatsoever, across the board. You can specialize in medical if you want to go in medical. You can specialize in marketing. There's a lot of need for people that can translate, the technology to the marketing side, technology to business side, technology to education side, and you really need to focus on people skills too. That's so important, because I can't emphasize it enough. I've turned down people that had awesome resumes at WCU, but they had no people skills. They wouldn't look me in the eye. They wouldn't be straightforward. They would lie. That makes a big difference. And be very careful what you put on Facebook. Be very, very careful what you put on the internet. You are Googled before an interview at most places now. Seriously.
How do you see the IT job market over the next 5 years? Are you confident? Are you nervous?
I'm confident as far as my industry is concerned. I mean,
I have a job for you, actually.
So, as far as cellular technology is not going anywhere. I mean, I've been lucky enough that the economy has not affected my industry at all. I mean, people are going to disconnect their landline before they disconnect their cell phone. So I've been very lucky in that fact. I think technology, my opinion anyway, is technology is going to continue growing. There's going to be niche markets that might fall off, but I think technology as a whole is just going to keep growing.
I'm extremely confident in that field. It's taken me, it's done good for me, and it's not going anywhere. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like I said before, no matter what the technology or what the field is, they always find ways to apply the technology to it, whether it's medical, cellular, you name it, the technology will be there. I firmly believe that's even people that aren't technologies tell me, oh, that's a great field. I mean, I think it's pretty bullish. Technology's going to be there for a long time to come.
Working for the government, that's why I was kind of curious about how many employees and, cutbacks and City of Cape Coral, if there was hiring freezes and.
They've
But your
talked about
job is
outsourcing
safer.
my job. That's one of the things that government right now, I think anybody that works for government has a crosshair on them. And our department, we have, like I said, around 20 people, has always been pretty lean and extremely efficient. From what our vendors tell us, we're not bleeding edge, but we're leading edge. We've used technology to solve many problems in the field. A lot of our building inspectors, when the construction boom was really big, we gave them, it was a pretty expensive initiative, but they did have the money to do it, and it really, for them to be able to do their inspections in the field, when I first started, they went out, they had a list of papers every day. They had to kind of know the area. They'd route their own paperwork, do all the inspections, come back, and then enter them in the system. I mean, these guys were putting in tons of hours, and it's pretty inefficient. So we took the technology and put that to that process, and gave them laptops in the field. They were able to, I don't even know what the numbers were. I can't remember how much they worked, the amount of work they got done in a day versus what they did before. So, but being in government, there's always, especially right now, we're under the microscope for everything. So everything we can do to squeeze every penny out of our equipment and out of our resources, we do. Right now, we're doing a cloud initiative on a public scale with another vendor. So we're not going to host it inside. That is actually going to cost us more. We've already done some of the initial, run the numbers on it because of what we do. I mean, our salary, I could probably make more money in the public world or the real world as we call it. But the benefits have been there for me. Now that's going to change. So that comes with the job moving around. So, eventually they'll squeeze, whether they outsource us, that's always one of those things we have to think about each day is, I'm going to walk in there and they're going to be telling me to, show this guy how to do this and then pack my bags and go. We'll see. We've always been able to do it pretty efficiently and pretty less than what the other outside companies have tried.
Did you seek out that industry for IT?
No, I just kind of landed there. That's where I ended up at. I knew there was a lot of the benefits. I think is what drew me there. The fact that they were willing to do some tuition reimbursement, that was a big help to get me through school. And they put money on me, and I put some time into them, and it's paid off for both of us.
The technology field, I have no doubt it's going to be great. The two downsides are the outsourcing.
Right.
That does happen. I saw it at Sony. I saw hundreds of people lose their positions. Yeah, it was really, really bad. I'm hoping that changes around because we're talking about some legislation, probably bring some things back. But the other thing is, here locally, to do help desk support, you don't get paid as much just doing help desk support for a company like Staley Memorial. They're not going to pay you that much to start off with that. If you get a niche where you're really good and you specialize in an area, you're more likely to get the higher pay. Otherwise, you'll most likely have a job, but you may not have the higher pay unless you find a specialty and enhance that. So that's mainly here. I know Austin and Dallas, it's just, they're desperate for people with technology, right out of college, whatever. They are, every day, those boards. And I thought about moving there, but I was born and raised here. Kind of like it, I teach here at Hodges, so it's something I've weighed. And the economy here, I'm very seasonal. my seasonal clients are coming back, so I'm doing a lot of things during the winter, but the summers get pretty scary. But I know that I could go ahead and just say, okay, forget my own company, just go ahead and get a 9 to 5 and steady, and that's that. But I like my niche of teaching and doing it one-on-one and doing it for little companies and doing it for grandmas in the retirement center, things like that. So I finally found exactly what I wanted. So.
One thing I thought might be worth mentioning to people that are new graduates that are new on the market is, I'm kind of curious what your guys' experiences were, but I know when I was looking for my first development job, I must have sent out 20, maybe 30 resumes to different companies, not even all just local ones, and it took a lot of paper pushing rather for me to get a couple interviews and to really get that first job. And but I found that once I got into a company,
yes.
and once I got that first piece of experience, from then on it was clear sailing.
Much easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a suggestion for that. For the first-time students, there's a couple of contracting companies, like in Tampa. I'm trying to remember the name of one. One of my friends got a 3-month contract that extended to 6 months, and it's sort of like a temp agency for IT. Once you have that on your record, then you can send it out, and they can also do permanent placement as well, and they pay pretty good. You just have to be willing to take the risk that you may not have a job in 6 months, but it would work out much better than, just trying to find one locally here. If I can remember the name of that, I'll give you the name of that company, so you have career development.
That's a good idea. I know Chico's locally hires contracts.
That's how one of my friends got in there.
Chico's I know from experience, I'm talking to a vendor right now that does first-hand work with Chico's. I'm sure that they work with the school. They're having a problem keeping people here because of, this isn't Miami. They want a lot of young talent, but the young talent comes in here and they're not super thrilled with the area because the nightlife might not be there. So they're getting a lot of churn there. If this is an area you want to be, and Chico's they have a lot of awesome technology there.
It is hard to get in the door there for an interview, and you can't just walk in. You have to have it scheduled. It's very hard. You have to look all the time on the boards to see if there's something that fits, and be willing to take something less than what you're at right now, just to get in the door and then prove yourself. Because I've known a lot of people that have done very, very well that way.
Getting that experience definitely changes everything.
Yeah.
It's once you're in the field somewhere, that's that first fundamental piece, along with your certifications and your obviously your degree being the most important. The degree and experience are the two foundational building blocks that everything else will come from there.
Yeah. Just got to be persistent. Get that. Don't just keep at it until once you get that first piece of experience. Then it's just
Definitely agree.
yeah.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Then I have a certificate for each of you.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Thank you so much for participating.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you much.
Thank you. And we also have Hodges mugs.
Thank you. It's a nice one.
Thank you very much.
We might have some international collectors too.
Thank you. I still need to swap out my degree.